The time has come. Part 2 of History of the Rakata has been waiting its time to be finished for a long time now. The first video was very well received from all of you my subscribers, as well as all sorts of other Star Wars and KOTOR fans. I hope the second part will be even more interesting to all of you because it will take us into even deeper lore. Together we will learn of the first encounter of the Rakata with Jedi, understand the reasons for the collapse of their culture and the species in general. We will find out what the surviving Rakata did to preserve their kind and endure. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Star Wars Lore, the Rakata Part 2. At the Infinite Empire's peak, the Rakata used slaves trained as Force Hounds. They were being trained in the dark side, meant to locate planets strong in the Force. Such was the case of Tatooine, located by Xesh, the servant of Predor Tulkar. In this time, the Force Hound Thrill claimed to have detected a world incredibly strong in the Force, but that it was impossible to reach from the twisted lanes caused by the black holes and stars. Xesh was sent to reach this planet. Titon was an isolated planet with a population of trained Force-sensitive, calling themselves the Jedi. The Jedi strove to balance their actions between dark and light, lest they ignite massive Force storms across the entire planet. Xesh made it to Titon, but his dark presence shifted the balance of the planet, causing an intense planet-wide storm. This storm both alerted the Jedi and damaged the ship, resulting in its crash and destruction on Titon. The servant of the Rakata was the lone survivor and immediately was confronted by the Jedi. The full story is told in great details in the comic book series called Star Wars Dawn of the Jedi, and I would strongly recommend you check it out. Collapse of the Rakata. After generations of galactic supremacy, the Infinite Empire began to fracture, and by circa 25,200 BBY, the Rakatan Empire imploded. Constant tensions between internal factions suddenly erupted into a devastating civil war, caused by the Starforge's corrupting influence. Already weakened by warfare, the builders were suddenly struck by a deadly plague that spread rapidly through their ranks and decimated the species. It was later theorized that the disease was created by a slave species because it has only affected the builders themselves. The virulent plague nearly exterminated the Rakata and brought the Infinite Empire to its knees, but the worst was yet to come. The Rakata suddenly and inexplicably began to lose their connection to the Force. Worse, they were unable to uncover the source of their failing sensitivity. Rakatan scientists came up with numerous speculative hypotheses to explain their worsening condition, but in the end, all of their theories proved incorrect. In time, it would be revealed that a mysterious mutation in the plague had caused it to strip the builders of their powers. Thus the rapid expansion on the Rakata came to an abrupt end, with the strange plague swept through their species. Millions died as a result, and those that survived had lost their connection to the Force. As the Force users were culled from the overall population to an ever-increasing rate, the Rakata lost their ability to manipulate their own technology. Soon they were forced to rely on inferior devices that were not dependent on the Force. Sensing weakness, slave species rebelled in large-scale insurrections on many member worlds and stamped the total collapse of the Infinite Empire by 25,200 BBY. As a result of this vulnerability, the Rakata were unable to suppress the massive outbreak of violent slave rebellions and uprising against their rule. The nearly decimated Rakata could do nothing but abandon their conquest and retreat to the safety of their homeworld of Leon. Some Rakata cast-offs survived the fall of the Infinite Empire in the Tion cluster as late as 25,100 BBY, allowing Tion humans access to their Force-sensitive technology. The Leon system was protected by a disruptor field that could disable any incoming ship's communications and navigational systems. The field, operated from the summit of a temple on the surface of Leon, was originally constructed to protect the Starforge, but it was now used to protect the Rakata themselves. On their homeworld, Rakatan civilization rapidly faded into obscurity and barbarism. On Leon, a few thousand Rakata survivors seemingly represented all that remained of the Infinite Empire who remained on their hidden homeworld, where they descended into barbarity. Warlords devastated the surface of the planet with weapons of mass destruction, and the majority of the Rakata were forced to flee underground. Years later, when the Rakata surfaced again, they called themselves Black Rakata, such as the One and his people. Only the descendants of the priest castle, the Elders tribe, remained on the surface protected by their ancient temples and enclaves. They were called Red Rakata by the other Rakata tribes. They alone would retain full knowledge of the potent technology and turbulent history of their species. In the following centuries, the builders were purposely erased from the records of their slave subjects, and Infinite Empire slipped from the pages of the galactic history. In time, the liberated worlds destroyed the Rakata's creations and records where all trace and knowledge of them being wiped from the greater galaxy. A number of Rakata tribes in the unknown regions were known to have stolen whatever they were capable of carrying from the storehouses of the Idol Starforge before fleeing in advance of the nuclear war that emerged between the warrior and priest classes. These refugees would later settle a region of space that became known as the Rakatan Archipelago. A small group of Rakata remained on the prison world of Bolsavis, where they created an artificial intelligence called the Mother Machine, which created entire species in a desperate attempt at recreating the lost Rakatan force sensitivity. With the collapse of the Rakatan Empire, reverse engineering began on the Rakatan hyperdrives, which led to a second wave of colonization that enveloped a small patch of the core. In 12,293 BBY, an expedition to Tandun III, led by Dr. Beramsh, encountered a planet that was studded with ruins of ancient population centers. Remnants. The surviving Rakata devolved into barbarism and eventually forgot how to operate their own technology. More than 20,000 years after the fall of the Infinite Empire, most Rakata had only just begun to re-emerge onto the surface, yet the Elders tribe still thrived within their secluded compound. After long millennia of solitude and contemplation, the Elders desired to destroy their great factory so that they could finally put their bloody past behind them. But there was a problem. They could no longer enter their own temple of the ancients, the nexus of their collected knowledge and the key to accessing the Starforge, because the force was lost to them.